Ladies of Reddit, what's the best way a guy has asked you out? I wouldn't say this was the best way, but it was most definitely memorable. A group of friends and I had gone to trivia at the campus bar, and after a few drinks and some great laughs it was time to head home. There was a guy that I had been hanging out with but nothing too serious. He walked me home and as we got to my place he stops and starts acting a bit odd. He finally says, so I've never really done this before. But do you want to go out sometime? Obviously I was most excited and asked what he had in mind. His response was pure gold. Oh, I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead yet. And that was the end. I told him to tell me when and where and that I would most definitely be there. We ended up going to a nice place in the downtown area and went for a long walk by the river. I can't really complain. I work at a little popcorn stand once a week. Every week, this attractive, witty man came in to buy popcorn and flirt with me. Every week, he left a lottery ticket in the tip jar with his phone number on it. One time he got up the courage to say, if you don't win this week, how about I take you out to a nice dinner to make up for it? I thought it was very sweet, and we had already had fun flirting and joking around. Too bad it turns out he was married. It's kind of sad that you have to inquire about these things before you accept a date. Went to lunch with this guy at a local pub. We decided after lunch to walk around the neighborhood. I really had to pee and we were outside this other restaurant I really like, so we went in. After a few drinks, he went to the bathroom and I paid for the drinks. He asked for the check when he got back but the waiter just brought my receipt to sign. He said he's never had a girl buy his drinks and what would his mother say to this? The restaurant gives a postcard with the tab, so I handed it over and told him to write her about it. He handed it back after writing, Mom, this girl just bought my drinks. Not sure how to feel about this. Maybe I should take her to dinner this weekend. I thought it was cute, and I said yes. Well, a group of my friends decided to go out after work for some drinks, and he was going, so I asked him what time we were all meeting. He told me 5:30, so I arrived fashionably late at 5:45, only to find him at a table, alone. I walked up and sat down, thinking everyone else was running late. We start chatting and quickly realize we have a lot of similarities, and I'm hooked. Around 7 PM everyone else starts arriving and I'm curious as to why they were so late. They weren't. He told me an earlier time so he could spend time with me and get to know me. That night we kissed and it has been sweet ever since. Not my story but a friend of my family. He was stuck in gridlock LA traffic on the Santa Monica freeway. Being close to losing his mind, he decided to roll down his window and start chatting with a woman in the car next to him. They hit it off and he asked if she wanted to get off at the next exit and get some coffee. They've been married for about 8 years now. Still stuck in traffic. I was at the student center in college on my laptop or something when this guy comes up to me and says, "You're the most gorgeous girl I've seen all day." I responded with something like, "Who put you up to this dare?" We talked for a bit and exchanged phone numbers cause why not. He was really cocky and a year younger than me, but we hung out a lot cause he lived really close to me and I didn't have many friends. We became good friends and I became good friends with his brothers and some other people he hung out with too. We didn't start dating until several years later when he was less annoying and less cocky. Now we're married and he's sitting really close to the TV playing Mass Effect shirtless. Score. A guy I dated in high school knew I painted a lot. So he asked me if I could paint his mom something for Mother's Day, bouquet of flowers or something Hallmark Y. He then told me he already got a frame that he and his brother personalized, so he needed the painting to be a specific size. He then gave me the cardstock one day after school, and when I started to paint, I realized that he wrote "Will you be mine" in white crayon, causing it to show through the watercolors. Guess it's a good thing you didn't bust out the oil paint. My roommate was walking down the street the other day when a guy stared her straight in the eye and said, "Do you want to watch music television with Emmy?" Today she was taken aback but intrigued. That's a hard thing to say no to if done correctly. I was once stuck in really bad rush hour traffic on 95 when I heard a siren go off and a booming voice from a loudspeaker state "female in the gold Honda." I immediately started freaking out because I thought a cop was pulling me over with a loudspeaker and really had no idea what I could have possibly done. So I kind of feigned ignorance and hoped it was all in my head. 10 seconds later I hear "beautiful female in the gold Honda." Wait, What? I turn around to see an ambulance about 2 cars back to the right of me desperately trying to get my attention. The man driving the ambulance ended up asking me out over his loudspeaker. It was definitely the best way I had ever been asked out just because it was so goddamn random and hilarious. I lived in another state and he wanted to visit me. I said no. That's too much pressure. And what if I didn't like him? He'd have wasted all that money. His exact words were, but what if it did work out? It'd be a heck of a story. We are married now. That's a heck of a story. Walk into a club and screaming at the top of his lungs, WHO wants to frick Matombo? We were talking on FB chat and playing Would You Rather, and he said, would you rather have the best cup of coffee or go to the zoo? I said coffee and he replied, how about next Friday? I had just come out of a lecture with a bunch of friends and we were standing around talking, probably trying to figure out what we were going to do later that night. I noticed this guy standing outside my lecture hall, looking at me. I had seen him around but never really paid any attention to him. We make eye contact for a split second. I probably furrow my brow a bit. He purses his lips a little in thought. A minute later, he comes up to me, still standing in with a group of maybe 5-6 girls, and says, hi, I'm Steven. He's pretty average looking, wouldn't stand out in a crowd. I introduce myself back. Hi, I'm Pedaduck. Without missing a beat he says, I've seen you around and promised myself that if you ever acknowledged me I'd talk to you. I think you're cute and would love to hang out sometime. It was so straightforward and I was so impressed with his confidence, though he told me later he was about to crap himself. I say sure, let's exchange numbers. After we exchange numbers, he chats for a bit, probably to make sure I'm not a huge butthole. Says he has to get going but will be in touch soon. We dated for about 9 months, then realized we were better as friends. I know the manner in which he asked me out wasn't special or particularly interesting, but it sticks out to me because it was uncomplicated and to the point. There were no games. Almost 6-7 years later, we still keep in touch and hang out every so often. Not something you can say about most exes. First text I got. Now I have your phone number. Do you like Chinese food and a corn maze? Married now. A guy quit his job for me. My dad was his boss and I worked there too. He was old-fashioned and told my dad that he was planning on asking me out. My dad freaked and told him if he plans on dating me he needs to put in his 2 weeks and if he forgets about it he can continue working like nothing happened. He put in his 2 weeks the next day and we have been together ever since. That was 10 years ago. We only knew each other in passing and never said more than a few words here and there. My personal favorite was the man who followed me for a block and announced, "Can I frick you?" Obviously I was thrilled, and by thrilled I mean I walked very quickly to my car. In high school, my fiance was being pressured by our other friends to ask me to prom, so in a rush, he scribbled prom on an empty, greasy pizza box that he'd found in the recycling. My reaction? A high-pitched, sustained, "Sorry." 6 years and 1 child later, our friends still make fun of my response. He and I were talking about books and movies and TV shows, and he asked what kind of food I liked. I told him that I love Cajun food, and he asked if I'd been to a local hole-in-the-wall Cajun place. When I told him I hadn't, he said we need to go. This Wednesday, my treat. Sound alright? He and I are engaged now. He sent me a text along the lines of, "I had a good time talking to you when we met the other night. Do you want to go out for a drink sometime?" Upfront and straightforward is honestly way better than some over-the-top romantic gesture, at least for a first date. When you've been dating for a while, sure, get fancy, but most girls would rather know A, that you're interested, and B, what you want, than to have their apartments filled with flowers and be serenaded on the accordion. I told a girl I won a hula hooping contest years ago. She said, "No way." I said, "Yay, you're right, but I hear most relationships are based on lies, so I figured it'd get us off to a good start." I was buzzed and wasn't sure if I'd seen it somewhere before or made it up. By saying yes when I asked him out myself. Not that it's absolutely the best way any guy should ask a girl out, but it was endearing to me. We'd been going on dates regularly for a couple months. I don't think we had ever actually talked on the phone, just texting and whatnot. One night I was out with some girlfriends and got a text from him. "Hey, can you talk on the phone really quick?" Yeah, sure. Everything okay? He called, and I could immediately sense how nervous he was on the phone. He started off asking how my night was going and just generally leading some silly small talk. He told me he was a little drunk, and after a minute or so, was there something you needed? Oh yeah, I just, I want to talk now if our world bemigeral friend, so cute, so nervous. I, shamefully, didn't tell him yes immediately. It wasn't for lack of interest. I am not a confident person and wanted to make sure he was absolutely positive he wanted me like that. But I was so flattered that he felt like he had to get a little tipsy in order to officially ask me out. Anyway, here we are almost 2 years later, living together in an apartment. I'm about to make my first skydive with him, and I love him more and more each day. If you see this, I love you so much, and I am so happy you are mine. Yo, what are you doing for the next, say, 30 to 40 years? Looks like you have a pretty heavy tax burden. Let me help you with that. I once ordered a tall hot chocolate from a coffee shop. The guy behind the counter said, "Oh, so you want to order me?" Panties hit the floor. I'm picturing the Old Spice guy. I once asked a girl out through a Super Bowl bet. I won. Thank you, Seahawks. Dude, Peyton Manning was your wingman. My current boyfriend and I had the most awkward and casual courtship ever, and it became official with a conversation that went exactly like this. "So, I've kind of been telling people you're my girlfriend. Okay, does that make you my girlfriend? I guess so." Similar to what a lot of people are saying regarding honesty and being straightforward, my current boyfriend asked me out by saying, verbatim, "Well, I told a girl at work you were my girlfriend. So, what'd I say? Be my girlfriend. Do it." It's important to note that by this point we had been seeing each other for a bit and had developed an understanding of the other's humor, so it was actually the perfect approach. I work at Starbucks and he came through the drive-thru. He got a dirty chai and paid with cash, but he asked if he could have his receipt. I thought it was a little weird that he'd wanted a receipt because he paid in cash, but before I could hand it to him he said, "And in case I have any questions, would you write your number down?" I was so shocked, flattered, so I did. That was almost 3 years ago and we've been inseparable ever since. On a scale of 1 to America, how free are you tonight? That got me. When I was a server, I had a handsome gentleman ask me a couple questions about the specials and then he proceeded to say, "So I can have anything I want on this menu?" "Of course you can," I replied. He dropped the menu flat to the floor and said, "Would you stand on this for me?" I was flattered. It was witty, made me blush, but I'm gay, so he ended up having the beef dip. We had just fricked. He was wasted, and he flopped on top of me and said, "Ate me." He then passed out and didn't remember the next day. We are now happily married and I hope he reads this. I've had pretty good results with one to meet for coffee. It's low pressure, low risk. If you are weird, it's a public place and they can just leave anytime since you met them there. You can make it 20 minutes, or if it goes well, make plans to meet that night. The other perk is you can see if she shares your coffee addiction. If you don't drink coffee, you can get the frick out my face. I once did an imaginary fishing pole cast towards a girl in a group at a bar. It somehow worked and she did a few flops to get over to me. Her reaction was perfect and I've never tried the trick again. Sounds like you used the best pickup line. My favorite one was pure chance and confidence. On my way back home from London, I travel through Leicester Square tube station. I play a game called Keep Up Commuter. I race against commuters determined to get through the crowds. I'm jogging with this cute banker guy next to me. Then suddenly this old Italian guy clocks me. Bollocks. He starts offering me his pizza, which he insists is genuine and real Italia. In his defense, he was holding actual pizza, but I refused and insisted I was full already. Cute banker guy had noticed all of this and glared as I refused. So when we part ways to go north as the Italian goes south, cute banker guy gets up the courage to ask, "Can I get some pizza if she doesn't?" He stares him down and shouts, "You know, pretty lady." The classic awkward hilarity this erupted in me was unreal. Look at this banker as he stands there flustered. We got to talking and have known each other now for over 9 months. It was all down to pure luck and I enjoy the fun of it all. Guys, go for it. I don't know if this really counts, but whatever. When I was in 10th grade, a classmate of mine was hit by a car and his arm was severed above the elbow. They were able to reattach it, but he lost a lot of mobility. Fast forward to senior year, I'm house sitting for my uncle and this kid lives across the street. He comes over, we smoke and chat a while, and then all of a sudden he uses his functioning arm to lift up his other, mostly dead, arm and places it gently around my shoulder. I was speechless. I think we made out or something, but I can't remember anymore. He came up to me, stuck his hand out, and said, "Hi, my name is," says his name. "What's your name?" I said my name. He misunderstood, and we joked about that. I'd say it worked pretty well because 10 years later we're married and I'm currently serving as an incubator for another one of his offspring. He said climb in the car, so I did. He then drove with me for an hour, until we reached a very small, spooky village. Then he parked the car in the middle of what seems to be a wood. It is then that I started to freak out a bit. I mean, I am courageous, but this made me question if I'm being murdered. He climbs out of the car, and I follow, with some hesitation. Then we're in front of a huge fence. It is slightly bent on top, so he managed to get over the fence rather easily. I got stuck with my jeans and tied it open a bit, landing with a thumb on the grass. Holding out a tiny flashlight, he led me up a steep mountain, covered with rocks. All the while, I'm like, oh shit. Then I look up, and the moonlight reveals an old castle ruin. Both my eyebrows raise and raise. There, on the top tower, we stand and talk, enjoying the stars and the noises of the animals in the woods. It's not too cold, and how cool's that to raid a castle in the middle of the night? I was thrilled. You have been spotted by the rare flying floofer. If you comment good boy below, he don't steal your hot dogs anymore. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.